All right, guys, welcome to episode number 97, the Open Range Recap. So we're going to just keep it to this race, just recapping this race. I think later on we'll do a 5 years.
5 years in the making recap.
Yeah, recap. We'll have Eric on and we'll just talk about all the things Open Range and where it's came from, where it's going.
Yeah.
And yeah, so...
I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, not this one won't be fun, but I mean, we had a chance to talk with Eric a little bit at check-in and just chatting a little bit about the kind of what the next couple of races are going to look like. But I think it's been fun also just kind of reminiscing about the prior. Well, for him, I guess 8 years, 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years. This is the 9th edition. So.
Yeah, so it's one of those things like hearing the stories about those races. I was like, man, why didn't I find this sooner? Like it would have been so. But there is at least one rider that has done every edition and finished every edition,
which is freaking amazing.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to have that episode and talk to Eric a little bit more. But let's get into the recap of this race because it was quite a day out there.
Well, before we get into the recap, I want to just say the amount of wild. Not wild, but just serendipitous things that happen.
Oh, yeah.
So we roll up to the race on race day. Well, even in check-in, we saw a bunch of people that knew us and talked to us and heard about the podcast. And we're looking forward to our pre-race and, use that to help them complete the race, which was great.
Yeah.
A lot of first-timers that were out there that haven't ridden this course and came up and talked to us and said hi and that they liked the podcast. So again, thank you all so much.
Yeah.
It's really great seeing you guys. And then the coolest thing I think of the weekend was when we had the giveaway for the race entry, and little did we know, we parked right next to him at the very beginning of the race.
Yeah, wasn't that something? We circled around looking for a place to park, and I'm like, here's a spot right here. We'll pull in here.
Yeah.
And we get out, and there he is.
Yeah, Dave's right next to us.
He's like, wait, aren't you the guys from the podcast?
He's like, I won the entry. And I was like, oh my gosh, you did. That's right.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
Yeah.
So it was really cool just to talk to him a little bit. And it was his first time. He was doing the 100K. So hopefully he had a great day out there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And it was awesome.
Yeah. And I would completely agree with you. I think the number of people that came up and said something to us was quite humbling, to be honest. It was a lot of fun and great to meet some new people and hopefully you guys were able to take some of the things from our preview and apply it to the race itself, and then can pass that information on and pass the podcast along to some of your friends.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Good stuff.
So
awesome.
So race day. All right.
Race day.
We're always looking at the weather on race day, because weather is, I would say, for this race in particular, can be a huge factor.
Yeah, we usually start about a week out. We start tracking
2 months out,
right?
Basically, in November, you're looking at the 6-month forecast. On, the USGS.
It might snow in Pratt that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But no, we did. We check the weather quite often, especially the wind. Not that obviously you can't change it, but it's more so just to kind of get a sense of race strategy and how do we want to try to position, because you're going to be in the wind no matter how you cut it. With this race, you're going to be in the wind somewhere.
Yeah, it's called Open Range for a reason.
That's right.
It's very open, very exposed.
Yes.
There's no trees out there.
That's right. And one of the
as you can see, there's only that one tree right there.
Yeah,
that was the one tree.
Well, what you pointed to may not be on our
it might not be on there. So we're trying to see, but we were looking through some pictures and if you look at all your race pictures, there's no trees out there.
There aren't many.
There aren't many. And there's a few. There's a couple where parts of my soul have kind of coalesced.
That's right.
From years past.
The story is that if you go out into Pratt at midnight and you stare into the sky, you'll see orbs of light that flutter around aimlessly. And that's the fragments of souls that have been taken by gravel.
Exactly. Have been taken by this course.
By the Open Range.
Yep.
But it's crazy because as much as I wouldn't say we obsess, but as much as we obsess over the wind, we were looking at the weather up to the morning of, and it's like, oh, it looks like it's only gonna be like 15 miles an hour, maybe a 20-mile-an-hour gust. You could throw all that out the window, because I tell you, there were many times out there it felt like it was much more than 15 miles an hour, and that's just a testament to how open it is out there. And but I will say, this was one of the more mild years I can remember. I mean, now last year with the rain, of course, it was a little cooler, but it was like chilly at the start.
Yeah, so it's a little chilly. Again, the wind only played a factor just on that south section. So I would say, like, after you got through some of that first areas of gravel, it was a little chilly and a little more windy in the headwind area. But other than that, like, even when we got past Medicine Lodge, it seemed like the wind changed and gave us another headwind. But I kept looking, and it wasn't very much. But
I was wondering if I was the only one that felt that. We'll get into how my day went in a little bit, but at that point in the day, it was just like, I don't need any more. Like, I just need that tailwind. Just give me the tailwind. And I made that turn, or coming out of Medicine Lodge, made that turn to get on the long stretch of road, and it felt like a headwind. I'm like, how is it a headwind? Like, are you freaking kidding me? So anyway, but yeah, all in all, this was probably one of the best weather years that we've seen.
I think this will probably go down as the best weather year. Yeah. I really doubt that you'd be able to have really anything kind of better.
Yeah. No.
Just the way that the area of Kansas that's in, and just the way that, how exposed and open that area is, like, I doubt you're going to be able to get anything better than you had this year.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's only harder from here, guys.
That's right. So if you felt like the weather was a problem, just wait.
Yep.
So anyway, we get up to the race start, and maybe just talk from there. Like, how did you sort of set up for it? How did you position? Let's go right into the race itself.
Yeah. So for me, I did want to try to do well.
Sure.
And so,
this is your race.
This is my race.
This of all the races we do, this one probably fits your riding skill the best.
Yeah. It has a good mix of some off-road sections, a little bit of technical. I can use my, rusty mountain bike skills.
Yeah.
If there is wind, I'm a bigger guy, so I tend to
just plow right through it. People getting behind you. Yeah.
So it basically, what I was trying to do is definitely not go too hard in the start, but go hard enough to kind of stay around the people that I'm pretty sure that I was going to be able to ride with. And for the most part, that played out.
You were not the first one into the sand pit.
No, like I would have been in previous years. That was...
Although you were pretty close, and there was one point, because you were a few riders ahead of me when we got to that section. And I was like, oh no, Travis is going to get stuck on the front again. I was like,
I even thought it too. I was like, oh, don't you dare go up there. Don't you dare. Because we come in like a little downhill section, and that's kind of where I usually go. So then I just kind of went out to the side, sat up a little bit, kind of resettled back into, I would say like maybe 25th rider, going into the sand area, and just kind of was like, all right, this is kind of, I'm well positioned. I knew some of the riders around. They all were really good, handlers. So I'm like, all right, I think we're in a good spot. Yeah.
So we get to that first sand section. It's neutral rollout, but it's probably about a mile for a rollout, and it's nothing at all. But it was pretty chill at the start. I mean, it did not surge like it did last year, and I think that's mostly because the weather was not really a factor, and there's plenty of places to break this race up. There's no reason to do it there.
Yeah, there was no reason to. The headwind wasn't strong enough that you wanted to put in such a big effort to separate before you got to the paved road south section.
Yep. And I think so. We scouted that sand section. So that's mile. I want to say it's about 3.5 miles to mile 7. I remember, about 4 mile stretch. And we scouted that the night before, and to our shock, I think it was not as deep of sand as it had been.
No, it looks like Eric got a hold of the graders, and they came through and graded that.
Plowed that right out.
Plowed all the sand to the side.
It was nice, and But I think once everybody got rolling through, there were still a few deep sections.
Yep.
Mostly, if you stayed in that center left side, it seemed like that was generally the better line. But for the most part, I didn't see anybody really like just totally like previous years. I've seen where people have just totally been bogged down and sand gets into the derailleur, and actually I had a couple points. I had this happen last year too. I couldn't shift because sand gets up into the because these electronic shifters, they're just a little micro button. Mm-hmm. So sand gets up in your handlebar area, and if you ride behind somebody with knobbier tires, guess what happens? It just shoots sand right in there. Well, you start to hit that button, the sand won't let the button press. So you just got to kind of whack it out of there. But so I had a couple points where I couldn't shift, but nothing like last year. Like it felt like the group pretty well stayed together. If you wherever you went into the sand is probably where you came out in the sand for the most part. So.
Yeah, I was. I did have one section where it went pretty deep, and I was right behind somebody, and he was fishtailing, and so like I was like, well, I don't want to like hit him if he goes down, so I pulled a little bit to the right, and then a little bit to the right was even deeper sand. So then it pulled the bike, and I just went kind of off to the side, but I just kind of unclipped and was ready to put a foot down, but didn't happen. So then I just turned back and pedaled on, and the next thing I know, I'm back with the group. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. So you get out of that first section, make that left turn onto the paved road, and then you get right on down to the first real gravel section of the day, which takes you on into some ranch road. And I'll say, I think that road section, it felt like groups were definitely trying to push a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I noticed it with where I was at. By that point, there were probably three groups that kind of broke up at the front. I think you were in that second of the third, or maybe the third.
Yeah, I was in the third. And so I was looking around. I saw Tyler. He's a good friend of the podcast, and we've raced with him quite a bit. And this was his 5th year doing open range too. So, so he's done all the great years that we've done. And so I was looking around, and I'm like, man, I am in the group. I was so pumped. I was so happy. I was just elated. I was like, yes, I am in. I made the
where
group.
I want to be.
This is where I want to be. Yeah. And of course, with open range, you can have the highest of highs and then the lowest of lows.
Yes, you can.
So this happened to me at Flint Hills, and I kind of don't know what it is. I'm going to have to do a little bit more testing, but I started getting like little kind of like microspasms or light spasms in my hips, and then my saddle area just kind of got real sore.
Yeah.
And it goes away after a little while, but in the very beginning, like after we got through that sand section, it was kind of pissed off. And so I'm in this group, I'm rotating through, and we're all working together, and Tyler was super pumped to see me in here because he's like, yes,
that's where you want to be.
He's like, if we're gonna, we want this guy because this is gonna be great. That's right. And so everybody was super pumped, and we were just in a really good group. And I go to stretch my back, and of course it's foggy out and kind of misty. Can't really see too well what's going on. I of course stand up on a hill, which I thought was flat. And so I stand up, stretch, and the wheel goes.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, oh crap. And they're just cooking. And I have to try to spin up, and I just couldn't get the power out to catch back onto them.
Yep.
And then the next thing I know, I'm off the back of that group, and I'm just deflated.
Yeah. So where was that, do you think?
I would say probably mile. I want to say probably mile 9 or 10.
Yeah. So that was on the paved section then?
Yeah. Midway through the paved section. Yeah. And I was holding them, and I was looking, and I was kind of wheeling them back together.
Yeah.
But then the second group.
Yep.
You could see the the flashing lights of the second group, and when my group that I just got dropped from saw that second group,
they turned it on, right?
They turned it on, and they basically.
Yeah. There's no way you're going to catch.
I was never seeing them again.
Right. Yeah, and I think coming out of that, so kind of. To follow up what you were saying, I came out of that sand section, and I had put a cap on the power. I wasn't, because I've cooked that sand section too many times over the years, and I always figure I can always work my way back into a group if I need to, especially if it's not super windy. So I felt like if I could meter the power, I would stand a better chance, and then group up with some people and try to push. So come out of that sand section. Stuff wasn't feeling right. Like stomach wasn't quite right, but the legs weren't feeling great. you know, and I couldn't figure out. So I was like, well, this is kind of how it was at Flint Hills too, right? Legs weren't great. Just keep working hard, keep eating and drinking, see what happens.
They'll come around.
Come around eventually.
You got
a long way to go.
You got a long way to go. Can't phone it, can't cash it out.
No.
You know, 8 miles into the race.
Right, exactly. So I had, I was in a group of probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 of us. Kelly was in the group, another friend of the podcast, and I kind of yo-yoed with them and he kept asking me, I was like, how you doing? And I was like, yeah, my stomach ain't quite right. I'm not sure what, it must have been breakfast. And we had hotel breakfast that morning, which
you did.
Good point. I had hotel breakfast that morning.
I looked and I was like, I'm not.
But we've eaten there before.
Yeah,
right?
we have.
And I've never had issues. So
I just, something looked off about the eggs.
I hear you.
And I was just like, I'm not going to do
this. I'm not taking that chance. But I was like, I don't know. I'll be okay. But I was also like, my legs also weren't coming around. So I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of keep doing what I'm doing and I'll figure it out. Right. So, but I was able to stay with, I yo-yoed, but I mean, eventually we kind of packed in and had a nice group of 4 or 5. And then just out of nowhere, like this this train of freaking riders comes through. Like 15 other riders, I think, came through. And I was like, yes, this is what we need right here. Right. So I'm like, all right, we're going to have like a total of like 18 guys that are just going to hammer in this section. We're going to catch up. Right.
Yeah.
And there was no cohesion in the group. I mean, there was some, but it was not. And like,
did you have like a group boss or
no?
There was just nobody policing anybody.
Yeah, and I wasn't in any form to do it either. I was not going to offer to do that. I had my own issues going on, so I was hoping because I knew you couldn't be that far up the road.
No,
I mean, there was no way.
And I was looking, and I was like, you were. I was looking on my Garmin and it looked and like you were half a mile behind me.
So I was on a paved section.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, if he's getting a group, he'll start to. I'm like, I'm hoping he'll get me before we'll
scoop you up,
scoop me up on that last little ranch section before we get to the dirt road that goes into Sun City. So that was my hope.
Yeah.
And so I basically just kind of went down to tempo, light tempo, and was just kind of moving. I met up with Steve Stevenson, which is one of the single speed guys. And then another guy I talked to him for a while. He's doing Unbound 200. And so we formed a little group of 3, and we were just kind of sharing the work and just going through as we got into the ranch section.
Yeah.
And then so I basically looked behind me. They were basically holding the same pace as me. So then I was just like, I'll just kind of sit up and then have them wait up and then I'd rather just work with people and save some energy.
And it's a long day.
Instead of trying to just press on and hope I pick off, or pick up people that have shelled out of groups. Yeah. And then, it just works out better. I think if you're working with people in your same kind of, pacing. Yeah. So then you don't want to try to get somebody who's shelled out and then you're trying to get them to work.
Exactly.
And they're already
done.
The worst.
You've already caught them halfway into the race. They're cooked. Yeah. Right. So, and I think that's kind of what, kind of where I was hoping, the group I was in, I was really hoping we were going to form up. And then when we hit that gravel section that went into the first ranch, it really broke up fast. I mean, now there was still a group, don't get me wrong. There was a smaller group that kind of peeled off and went ahead. And but the larger group dismantled. And that was unfortunate because I think had we been able to stick together, I think we could have, probably eventually caught up.
Yeah, because when I got to Sun City, I looked and you were just 0.6 of a mile back. So I figured, all right, so he's probably, probably just got a little bit behind from the ranch section because, if you were coming in with a group, you're going to slow up a little bit because everybody's trying to, just get through there safe. And so I figured climbing out of Sun City, there's a pretty decent climb. And of course, my build does not suit climbing.
That's right.
So I figured if Danny's in any group, he's going to get real close when we get to this next section. So I figured I would just put in, regular effort out of Sun City because I was leaving by myself. The group of 3 were doing other stuff. They were, doing the aid station, going to the bathroom, all that stuff. I just got my pack, got my bottles, and I just jammed out of there maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and I was moving. But I figured I would just pace and then just see where you were when I entered the ranch section. Yeah. And the Unbound guy caught up to me. I forget his. I don't know if I even got his name, but he caught back up to me on the Sun City climb, and then we went into the first ranch section, and I saw a group of 5 in front of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. So I can, if we can catch up to these guys, then we'll be like a group of 7.
Right.
And that might be the way it shapes up.
Yeah. And
I looked and you were now 0.8.
Yeah. I was starting to fall off.
So I was like, oh man, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mentioned there was a smaller group that was up that looked like they might have stuck together, and I could see their lights coming to the back half of that first ranch section. And then when I got to Sun City Road, I thought, okay, I could do one of two things. I can just hold where I'm at now and just stay behind them, because the aid station's like 5 miles roughly from once you get onto Sun City Road, maybe only a couple miles. So I wasn't going to put in a big effort to try to catch a group just to stop at an aid station. Like, that felt kind of counterproductive. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna ride a nice tempo, get into the aid station, be quick, and try to just beat them on time at the aid station, which worked for some of it, because I ended up catching 3 or 4 guys on the climb out of Sun City, which, much like you, I'm not known to be a great climber, but
you're better than I am.
But I a little bit, but I was able to make up a little bit of ground on that group and start catching people. And then we kind of reformed into a group of 4 or 5. And I was like, okay, this is good. But so we get to that first, or the next ranch section where you make that right-hand turn. And I had been taking some poles. I'm like, I'm not letting anybody in front of me on this section. Because I was like, if I was going to catch you, I had to be the first one into that section, or behind somebody that knew lines at least as well as you did. Yeah. And I didn't know who that would have been. So I wasn't going to let anybody in front of me. So I just cook it through that ranch section the best I can. Get up to where, finally get out of that first section and to the highway where you go across. And I want to say we were probably, we would have been about 3 hours in at that point? Yeah. 3.5 hours in. And remember I mentioned the stomach issues earlier in the race. It had not gone away. And I noticed I wasn't putting as much power out, and it was just like things were not right. So just try to battle through that, get to that next section across the highway. And I passed a few folks, get to a part where you go through a fence, an opening in the fence, and you make I think a left-hand turn. And I didn't see the opening in the fence. Instead, I saw some stakes with flags on them, and I was like, oh, that must be the turn. So I started to kind of go toward it. And the next thing I know, I'm getting clipped off my bike, and I got hung up on a wire that was running between. Yep. I had no idea there was a wire. I couldn't see it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, how the hell does this happen?
Yeah. So Eric, if you're listening, that section there, right after you crossed into that, I guess the third ranch section, right after you cross the highway, and there's a, what is it, the cattle loading area, and then there's like a circular water trough type thing, and you kind of shoot through a fence section there, the little break in the fence. Yeah. So there was a marking just past the fence, but there was no marking on the fence. Right. And so the guy that I was riding with, the unbound guy, he freaking went into it, and then I looked down at my computer to like kind of check the map to make sure we're going, and I look up and this guy's on the ground. He hit the fence full force and just wrecked himself. And he's like, there's a fence there, and I looked, for the life of me, I couldn't even see it. So if we're gonna use that section again, let's try to tie like some kind of ribbon or something to that.
And maybe there was, and I just didn't see
it might have blown off, which is totally possible too.
I just couldn't believe it though.
But from years' experience, I know you want to follow the line to a T. Yes. For whatever that GPS line tells you to do, you want to be right on it. You don't want to be to the left or to the right of it. You want to be right on it on the GPS. So that's what I was doing. That's why I was looking down, because there was a little bit of confusion in the group, and they were like, do we go this way? Do we go that way? Yeah. And I just looked down and I was like, we just kind of go this way, because there was like 2 mode paths right before you get there. And I was like, no, the line is here. So I'm just going on right the line. There. Yeah. And so I just followed the line, and I look up and this guy's just in the dirt. And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, there's a fence here. And I'm like, where's the fence? And, and I look, and all I saw was like the T-post that holds the fence. And I was like, okay, I think if we just go around the right side of it, we'll be okay. And he was on the left side. So it might have been marked. It could have been marked, and it could have just blown away. Because you come up on a hill, and that's where all that stuff is. It's just windy there. And
And I think I chalked it up to just me not just nuts. Because I was doing the same thing. I was looking down at my GPS and I'm like, man, it shows the left turn. I'm like, are we going along the fence line? That doesn't seem right. But
right.
I thought I was following it. But anyway, so get through that and finish off that ranch section. And somewhere around four-ish hours in, I think, I realized like all the new. So I mentioned all the stomach issues, and anytime I've ever had stomach issues, which is almost never, by the way. But anytime we've ever talked about, it's like, what's the number one thing you do when you have stomach issues? You just keep eating and drinking. Like, it's going to clear out one way or the other,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
There's one of two ways it's going to go.
Yeah, there's two holes it's going to come out of. And
right. And I was just praying. Just praying just something to freaking get this over with, because I knew if I could get past that, I felt like I could get my legs to come around. Like, it's going to eventually happen, right? You just have to stay positive. And never really did. And I realized about 4 hours in, like, I don't feel like I've been eating or drinking. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm starting to fall apart. Like not like a total bonk, but you can just kind of tell like the nutrition was not absorbing. Yeah. And
you said your stomach felt like sloshy, right?
Yeah. And so I tried eating a bite of solid food, hoping that would help, and nothing was helping. So I got to a point where I just sent you a message on Garmin, which I almost never do. And I think I just picked one of the pre-programmed ones because I was kind of out of it. I was like, go on, or
go on ahead.
Say, go on ahead. That's
go on ahead. And I was like, I'm already ahead. I can't go any further.
I can't go ahead any further. Where do you want me to go?
Where do you want me to go, man? So then, we're, I caught up to this group in the final section of the rant section, and then we get onto the gravel section, and we start heading to the further south section, and we're all working together, and we're all, kind of, everybody's a little cagey at first. Sure. And I'm singing, we're the 5 best friends that anybody can. So I'm trying to lighten the mood and just be like, look, man, I don't want to be out here by myself. I mean, I've ridden it. I've ridden this section so many times by myself. Yeah. So I'm like, we can work together, or we can, if everyone's gonna be like cagey, then I'll just go on. Yeah. But then they started lightening up, and then we're onto the road that climbs the Gypsum Hill, and I get the text, and I'm like, I sit up, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, go on ahead. What does that even mean? And so I look, and I was like, you're only 5 miles behind me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, go on ahead. I'm already ahead. Where am I supposed to go? Yeah. And so then I just, I'm sending text back and just like letter answers. Are you okay?
Yeah. Right. Right.
And then you're just like, and then you send stomach issues, and I'm like, oh, bummer, man.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And then you said you were limping in, and I was like, all right, well, this is going to be a bad day for Danny, especially if he has stomach issues. Yeah. But luckily you were only like, I would say 10 miles from
it was about 10 miles from Medicine Lodge. Yeah. And that was the thing. I was like, man, it's like, and what is that, mile 60-ish, I want to say?
Yeah.
So you're barely, not even halfway through the race.
But all the hard stuff is over. Like once you climb the Gypsum Hill climb, basically the hard ranch section comes next, and then you basically it's just getting back to Pratt from Medicine Lodge.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I got to just limp it in, because if I had tried to make any more pushes, number one, my legs couldn't do it, but then I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. It probably would not have ended well. We'll leave it at that. So I just said I'm going into limp mode, and I figured, you know what, if I just do 100 watts all the way home, I do 100 watts all the way home. If it takes, whatever it takes, I'll just get home, because the goal for the whole race was finish because of the buckle year. So, I got to Medicine Lodge and did the normal, quick stop, and fortunately I was able to use the restroom there. 10-minute stop, and it was just like, okay, well, I feel better, but now I'm just kind of done, right? My legs, still body was just weak, because it hadn't been soaking up nutrition. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to kind of ride it back, and let's just see what happens. Keep eating, drinking, you never know. Yep. And somewhere after that 8-mile climb out of there, legs started kind of feeling a little bit, but couldn't hold any long sustained efforts, but it was at least a chance to get back home a little bit faster. What's frustrating about the whole thing, then we'll get to your kind of ending recap, is at the halfway point, to your point, the hardest section's over, and I was on pace to go sub 8 hour.
Yep.
And I was just like, because I remember looking at the clock about halfway in, going, man, I've got a shot here, right?
Yeah, me and you were thinking, like, I'm like, if we could do 8 hours, that would be really good.
Yeah.
And then when I was out there on course and I got to I got to Sun City, fastest time I've ever gotten to Sun City.
Yeah.
And then I look at when I got to Medicine Lodge, that was fastest I've ever gotten to Medicine Lodge, and I'm like, I'm on pace to have
doing all right here.
And again, my power numbers, kudos to, and this is why I like this race. You can have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, because I was just kicking myself the whole time about dropping from that first group, because I'm like, I could be around 7 hours.
Yeah.
If like, a little over 7. I don't think
just
I
think
can
about
go
how much energy you save.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, those guys were probably motoring.
Sure.
And just if they were staying together, and especially on this back half of the section where you can just, group up and you can share workloads and just kind of motor through the rest of the, everything's not, there's a couple technical sandy sections, but other than that, like, you get to Sawyer and it's 20 miles basically of pavement all the way back. Yeah. And so like, if you had like, and we did, and I had like, I had 4 guys with me, and we were all sharing the work, and I was just kicking myself because I didn't put out, my intensity factor was a lot lower than it has been in years past.
Sure.
And I was going faster.
Yeah.
So I could have gone a lot faster. And
yeah.
I was just kicking myself. The
weather was such a help, I think, for the day, because it wasn't really hot. I mean, the wind you can't worry about, but it wasn't hot, and I think that allowed you to conserve a lot of energy throughout the majority of the course. And again, with the wind being relatively mild, any assistance you get from the group was just icing on the cake for you.
Yeah. So it was really good. I roll into Medicine Lodge. There's the 4 of us. Then it was 3 of us, and then the single speeder caught back up to us. Yeah. Steve Stevenson caught back up to us. And then the Unbound guy, he took a little too long doing his change.
Sure.
So
it's like, gotta go.
You gotta go, man. Like these.
If there's one thing we learned at this race, was how to effectively manage pit stops like that.
So I get my stuff, I start rolling. The group wants to stay together. There's good group cohesion, and we're just going up the climb out of Medicine Lodge, and we're just rolling. Everybody's taking turns. Even the single speeder was taking a couple pulls on the front. So it was really good. So we were just having some really good group cohesion there. Yeah. And so we're just motoring back.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. And that was, I think, when we did the race preview, we knew that 20-ish mile section back in was going to be great, because we knew there'd a chance of at least a cross tailwind at a minimum, and maybe a tailwind, and having pavement the whole way back. I mean, by that point, you've been beaten down so much by the sand. And if there's one constant theme I heard from different riders throughout the day, it was how much they they did not expect the sand to have as much of an impact as it did. Yep. And there was a stretch, as you mentioned, in that back half after Medicine Lodge, where you do get into some really sandy sections. And I don't remember that from years past. It feels like that those roads, if we didn't ride them before, or they picked up a lot of sand, because I mean, there were points where even I had to, several people got off the bike to have to kind of get through. It was only like 100 yards. It wasn't much, but it's still the fact you have to get off the bike, walk it through, and now you got sand in your feet. You got everything going on. All the things to complain about. But but still, I mean, I once you got through that, it was almost smooth sailing the whole way home. Yeah.
So for our group, I think the single speeder and the Unbound gravel guy, the Unbound gravel guy, like knew that he kind of messed up that pit stop. So he was trying to work his way back.
Sure.
And what I think was happening, but I'm not sure because I didn't ask, but like every time that Unbound guy got close, I think they were friends, or they might have known each other, but the single speeder would take a wild flyer off the front, right? And then the guys in our group would try to chase him down. Yeah. And then I'm like, what are we doing?
Don't chase everything.
I'm like, oh, he's a single speeder. I'm like, we don't have to chase him. No. Of course I didn't say anything, but these guys were just chasing it. So then I'm like, I'm like, are these attacks? Are these guys trying to attack me? Mm-hmm. And like, because I was taking pulls off the front, and then the next thing I know, like there's an attack going. So I'm like, all right, what the heck is going on? So this happened like 2 or 3 times, and I pull one of the guys back to the front with me, because I'm like more concerned about the group, because I'm like, let's just, we don't have to race right here.
Sure.
I'm like, there's plenty of race course left.
Yeah.
And there's a big climb out of, after you get through Sawyer and you kind of make that turn, like all of that road is all uphill. It's softly rolling uphill. So I'm not going to be putting in I'm like a big guy. Like, yeah, I can motor, but I'm not going to be putting in, massive efforts to try to catch you. So all you have to do is just hold on until we get to a hill and then attack and
then it's over.
Yeah, and then it's over.
Yeah.
So then you just create some daylight. And plus you'll have the crosswind, which will play to your advantage. And so I was just kind of like, that was the time where I was kind of getting frustrated with the group, and I was just like, what are we doing here? And then we get to Sawyer, and right outside of Sawyer, I roll up next to the group and I go, all right, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you guys want to do? Are you guys wanting to race this? Do you want to race now? Or do you guys want to just
roll in?
You guys want to roll in?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, look, I'm not there. They were two masters riders, and then it was just me. And I'm pretty sure I'm not in your category. So I'm just here to finish the day.
Yeah.
And if I can finish in front of you guys, that's cool. That just makes my points a little bit better.
Yeah.
You guys are masters riders. So, it's you guys are having the race. So if you guys want to race it out, that's fine. Go for it. And they're like, there was one guy who was like, no, I'm just trying not to cramp. I don't really want to race. And the other guy that was definitely the second strongest, he was like, no, let's just all ride together. And I was like, okay, cool. And so then we just worked, and we just basically just made it all the way back in. And then, of course, I still didn't trust them. If I've learned anything,
they are cyclists. After
yes,
all.
they are. We are all cyclists.
That's
So basically, what I did was, knowing the finish, I rode the finish a couple of times in warm up, and so I knew the line that I wanted to take. And so what I did was, after we make like a left-hand turn and then a right-hand turn, and then we're on the finishing straight.
Yeah.
And so I made sure that I was basically moving towards the front on that right-hand turn. And then once we got to that right-hand turn and we were slightly going downhill, I just kept the pace high and just, finished it like all in. So, again, after Sawyer, we dropped the single speed guy, and then, like I knew we would, because we had a tailwind, so we were going to end up going faster than him anyways. Yeah. Like, there's only so fast the single speeder can go.
Cadence can only go so high.
Yeah. And so that was my finish, and I had a really great time. I just, again, this race, so many times you get the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, man.
Amen to that.
And everybody I was talking to at the end, I mean, I saw Jackson. I asked him how it was, and he was like, that was a hard day. Yeah. I mean, he still finished 7th, which is freaking amazing. Yeah. But I mean, even him, he's such a talented rider, and such a, I knew he was going to I was hoping he would have a really good day, because he does a lot of cyclocross. So I know that his bike handling skills are going to be up there. Right. So I was really rooting for him. I was really hoping he would finish at like top 5 or so. But
I think
when I saw him, he looked pretty shelled.
Out. Yeah.
I'm like, this course has a way of, like, on paper, and I tell everybody.
We said this many times.
On paper, this course looks very, very easy.
Yes, it does.
And then
you get there,
and it's not.
And I think that's the thing. So if there's, like I said, if there's one theme I kept hearing, is people underestimated the impact the sand would have. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how. I mean, I know, because if you've never ridden in sand, I mean, or even if you have, like, the thing about this course is you never really know where it's going to be, and it
sneaks up too, because it'll look real smooth, and you're like, okay, that's a pretty hard pack, and then you'll ride it, and it'll be.
One of the things I noticed, though, and I don't know if you saw this too, but I kept seeing what looked like tire marks that were going on a pretty good line, because I mean, I had a line picked and I could see marks, and then sometimes I couldn't see marks, which told me I'm on an even better line. But I saw lines going straight, and then just all of a sudden they would just go off to the right into this deep sand. I'm like, you were on a great line. Why did you go into the sand pit? Like,
were they thinking that they were going to find a better line?
Is there a better line? I don't know. But I did see a lot of that out there, though.
Yes, I did see a lot of that too. So I was wondering, like, maybe like the front person was slowing up, and then people were thinking, oh, I'll get around him now. Because really, if you were if you were thinking about it, like those sand sections, if you had the good line, you could kind of ease up, because there's no way that anybody's going to put like an attack around you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck, because with the sand, it's just not going to happen. So that might have been what was happening.
Sure.
Again, the front people would be the only ones to
know.
Tell us.
I think that's the thing about this course. Like you said, on paper, it looks relatively easy. Even if you take the sand sections out of it, if all the sand sections were paved road, this would still be a very challenging course. And it's not like, I think it's just the sand introduces this mental aspect that is just, you cannot let that get to you, because it affects everybody the same. Like you mentioned Jackson, and I guarantee anybody in the front group, if they hit that section that bog you down, it bogs them down the same way it bogs any of us down.
Yep. There's no way you could like pick the right tires or the right pressure for that kind of section, because you would be at a disadvantage for everything the other part of the course. So again, I think the reason that I like this course so much is there is no right choice.
That's right.
The only choice is just keep moving forward.
I think there was one right choice. I went with the 50 millimeter tires instead of the 45s.
Yeah.
And also they have the tracers, they got a little bit more of a knob on them, but they're almost as fast as like the Pathfinders. And I'm really glad I went with those, because I felt like they rolled so smooth. They rolled very well in the sand. Like I felt like because they're 50s, they didn't feel like they sunk down as much. Remember the first year we rode this, and I want to say we rode on 38s maybe 40s.
I think I rode 38s. On like WTB 38s or something.
And like it felt like you're like a knife, like right into the sand. And the 50s just felt like they kind of hovered a little bit more. But on the ranch sections, it just felt like that tire choice, having a little knobbier tire, it felt so much more smooth this year and more efficient. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. I think if I had gone with the narrower tires, I'm sure I would have probably lost a little bit more time in there. Who knows? Hard to say. But I agree with you. You're guaranteed to have the wrong bike and the wrong setup somewhere on this course. So.
Yeah. There's like I say, like this course, again, the reason like we like it so much is, and the way I like it so much is like, again, it's every year, even though I've ridden it 5 years in a row now, every year I learn something new, something else is challenging. I appreciate even more and more of it. I see something new. The beauty of the landscape. There's another thing to see, even though, because I've, especially in that south section, I've ridden that road 5 times, and I just am in awe with everything when you get through that section. So
I think the other thing too, we've talked about this on other recaps for this race. I think this race can frustrate people, and I've seen this race frustrate so many people to where even if they get done, they're like, I don't ever want to go back and do that race again. We were there, and then we changed our mind. But even for folks that don't change their mind, that really disappoints me. Not because you don't want to race it again. I get it. I totally understand it.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. Yeah, so I'm not. It's not a judgmental conversation. It's just it frustrates. It kind of aggravates me a little bit, because if there's one thing that I take away from this event is. And the reason I like it so much is for all the reasons you mentioned also, if you get done with this, you complete this event, there are not many courses out there that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? It's like Unbound 200 is not that difficult compared to this one, right?
Yes. We heard that from, and I told that to the Unbound guy. He's like, I rode the Unbound 100 last year, and he's like, I'm doing the 200 this year. I'm like, well, you finish this course, you'll have no problem with that.
Just finishing, now you want to race and try to get to the top. Totally different, because you're talking about different types of race and all that. But just in terms of like people who ride Unbound 200 with the idea like, I don't know if I can complete it, or I don't know if I have the fitness for it, or, whatever the question mark is, not the people at the pointy end. If you've done open range, you're ready. Yeah. You're ready.
It's definitely harder than any Unbound.
Yeah. Just keep your training on track. You're ready. So.
Yeah. Again, and, speaking from experience at Unbound too, that, the thing that got me at Unbound was I was not prepared for the heat. And there was just no way I could have prepared, because it wasn't hot until the day of Unbound. But now, again, I've learned from my mistakes. I've corrected that, and now I'm more heat adapted than I've probably ever been.
Yeah. And it goes, I think, for any race. We've done Colorado climbing races, and you get out there and you're on like a 12-mile climb, and you're like, oh my gosh, when is this ever going to end? I've ridden in the middle of Kansas in a 40-mile-an-hour headwind for 3 straight hours. This 12-mile climb isn't really going to bother me that much.
I'm like, it's not hard.
All good.
Did you do the thing when you were climbing? So I was talking to Todd, and Todd's a friend. We've ridden with him tons of times. Yeah. He was doing the same thing I was doing. So on this 8-mile climb, I was looking at, so you crest, I don't know how many, there's got to be like 16 little rollers on there or something. Eventually I'll count them all.
Sure.
But I was looking, so it was 8 miles when you started that climb. Yep. And so and of course my Garmin says, you have 8 miles to the turn.
Which, by the way, it's not actually a categorized climb, which makes it even worse. Which is
even worse. So all you see is just up, and you're like, how is this not a climb? So I would just keep scrolling back to the screen after my poll and be like, all right, I got 7.5.
Yep.
All right. 7.
And you don't do that.
No, I don't.
You're not the kind of person that does that.
I never do that. I usually just stick it on the map so I know which way I'm going, or I stick it to my power numbers, which is I have my average power, intensity factor, and my zone.
Cadence, I
think. And then
no,
I don't have cadence. And then I have my normalized power. And that's just kind of what I'm going off of. I don't look at anything else.
Yeah.
And then again, like I do look at the map, and the map has my power and then which direction I'm heading.
Sure.
So at least, and then I know which kind of like where the wind's coming from.
Right.
Those are the two main screens I always look at. I never look at how far we have to go. I never look at how long I've been out here. I ask you
like, how far into the race are we? Like, I have no idea.
I have no idea. I don't look, because I'm like, it doesn't matter if I look or not. It doesn't make it any shorter.
That's right.
But I'm looking to just have some kind of little carrot that goes, okay, I'm only like 6.5 miles from the turn. Okay, I'm only 5 miles from the turn, and you're just like counting back. I never do that, but on that section, and Todd did the same thing. It was just like there was just no way, like that part of the race, I would, from Medicine Lodge to Sawyer, I would say is for most of us, that's the hardest part of the race, because
it's so close to home, but
it's so close. Yeah, you're so far, and that hill climb rollers is demoralizing, because you just look and all you see is just, and you get over it, you're like, okay, over the next one it should be better, and then when you get over the next one and there's another one, and you're like, okay, over that one that should be better, and then you get over that one and you're like, oh my god,
it's like it never
ends.
And what's even worse is the where you make the turn, it's still going uphill.
Yep.
So like you can't really even quite tell where your turn is, because you're like, oh, I'm at the top of the hill. No, it's actually on a little bit of a flat section before it goes up again. Yep. So I go another angle. I do that, but I go a little bit different angle on it. I just make it into a game where it's like I try to go, okay, I'm at 8 miles, and then I'm like, the next time I swipe over here, I want it to be 6, and I try to get exactly 6, so exactly 2 miles down. Yeah. And then by then, guess what? I'm 25% of the way through it, and then it's down to 4. Look at that!
You're doing too much in the math. I'm just looking at it.
I've done it so many times now.
I know.
But you gotta have those little games, because you're right. I mean, that it's a demoralizing climb, because you come out of Medicine Lodge feeling pretty good. And I've seen, how many people have you seen? I didn't see it. I saw it once this year too. Well, a couple of riders did it this year, where you come out of Medicine Lodge on the little town streets, and then you get that little stretch of highway before you make the turn on the Isabel Road, and people like to time trial that road. Like you're in a hurry to get to this climb. Like, guys, you're going to be on that climb for half an hour.
Yep. Okay.
So, people time trial, and then they get to the climb, and then they're cooked.
Yep.
And I saw it happen with a couple of guys. So, but yeah, that's a you got to find those little games to play, because that is a very mentally challenging, and that
section there is
it's just a paved road,
right.
Travis.
And I've done many of roads just like it, but for whatever reason, that section there has always been kind of the mental battle.
And this year, the reward for that was you get to make a left-hand turn and go into a sand pit. So.
Yep. And those roads were sandy coming out of there.
Washboards. That was another section. There were so many washboard sections this year too. That felt like you're riding a jackhammer. So, I think this one definitely did not let down. It was. I felt like the weather I was probably a little too optimistic the night before, going, "Oh my gosh, the weather's going to be so great."
I mean, it was perfect.
Beautiful. It was perfect weather, but it did not make the race any less difficult.
No. I was just like, "Oh, this is going to be the easiest year," and it's not. It's not any.
Well, maybe
easier.
It was the easiest year, but it doesn't make it easy.
Yeah, it just doesn't make it easy. Again, like I had exactly the same issues that I had before. Like I'm, suffering out of Medicine Lodge. I'm getting to Sawyer, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, can we just be done?" And then you get to that, and it, to Eric's credit, he changed the end of the course. Now you kind of go up and you get on a highway. You don't have to go back through the sand pit that you started through and then finish, which is either way. I think it,
that's the right call. I like that.
I basically was just like, I'm kind of indifferent. I'm whatever. I mean, by that time, I'm just like, you're so close to home. I don't care what you do to me. I'm just done.
See, I know we've done that gravel ride in several times. 4 times.
Well, the best change that he's made is the going straight north back to Pratt instead of doing it on like one road over, which is sandy.
We're going to be careful. We're going to get into a recap of previous years. Remember that one year that was fresh graded?
And it was just that north wind was just howling. It was the worst. But now he's moved it to being onto the paved road, which again, I can take a paved road and headwind all day. So I'm not too put out.
Good stuff. Well, you want to do a couple of rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's do some rapid fire real quick.
So we have made the conversion to Claude AI for our rapid fire. Yeah. I think Claude asks a little bit better questions. Although next time we have a giveaway, I think ChatGPT won that one. I know a lot of people like that when we talked to him at the
they did like that. So
fun stuff. So let's see here. So here we go. Sand doesn't reward the fittest athlete. It rewards the most patient one. And patience in a race is just discipline you practiced in training. Did your training actually build that, or did you just hope you'd find it on race day?
Oh, no. I knew the sand would be like that, and I've ridden enough sand to know. I mean, the first time you hit sand is always like I kind of remember this now, and it's had a little rude awakening. But I saw so many people just kind of like, and I had it too, but where you're kind of fishing around. A lot of people walked that one Sandy Hill section. I thought it was like cows have walked across the road, and I was like, are those like hoof prints?
Right.
And but they were people walking. And when I saw that, I was like, oh no, that's deep sand. And so then I just downshifted and just spun it up.
I wonder if the left side of that road had a little bit more firm ground to it, because there was a picture I saw. It looked like somebody was riding up that section.
Yeah, so I rode up that section on the left side. Okay. There was a couple sections. Again, the sand was a little tricky. I did have to, in the last ranch section, I did come around a little corner hot, get into some deep sand, and then I had to like push off the bank with my foot. Because, and then the riders that were with us, because I would just lead through those sections, and they were like, that was a little pucker moment. I was like, no. So I thought I was going down for sure.
There were a few of those. There were a couple of times I thought I was going down too. And I think, again, another testament to this type of course, like I think it challenges your bike handling ability. And if you ride it enough times, I mean, I am such a better bike handler now, even just riding this course 5 times, like, I did not freak out at all with the sand this year. Now, I haven't, even the first year, wouldn't say I freaked out, but it is unsettling. And I feel like this year, my instinct just kicked in and saved it without even really becoming too big of a deal.
Yeah, I always worry about like the people in front of me and the people behind me. I'm like, you don't know if they've, done this course before or not, unless you've, ridden it with them and suffered with them. You don't know. So.
Right. So the athletes who looked comfortable in the sand, were they fitter than you? Or were they just more willing to accept the pace and the terrain was setting instead of fighting it? Which one's easier to fix?
I think they were just accepting the pace.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that I rode with that I saw were not new riders. They're old, they're grizzled veterans.
Yeah, right.
And so they knew it.
Yeah. Let's see here. So mild weather means your body had every advantage it was going to get, right? Mm-hmm. So the gap between your goal time and your actual time is a pretty precise measurement of what you still need to build. And what does that number tell you?
That I shouldn't have been so demoralized and I should have just pressed on alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I don't know if the time would have reflected. I may have blown up, but I think once you commit to pressing on alone or working with a group, there's trade-offs, right? So if I committed to pressing on alone, then I would have put in more intensity factor. I would have gone faster, but there would have been a chance that I'd blown up. And staying with a group, maybe I've gone a little slower than what I would have gone, but I did save everything for the end.
I do think there's a point, though, where you're right. You have to make that decision. I feel like last year in the rain year, I had a similar situation where it's like, do you ride in that group into a headwind and just accept that you're going to go a little slower, but you save energy for the end? Or do you try to break out of that group, and you likely would succeed because nobody was going to chase you at that point? Do you just break out, burn the energy going solo, and hope you catch the next group? That's always a tough calculation.
I never thought I was going to catch the next group.
Yeah. But maybe you would have gotten faster.
Yes. Yeah. And so I never anticipate that I always anticipate that the group in front of me is better than the group that I'm with. Right. So like they stay together. They work. Every group ahead of me works better tactically. They ride better. They're stronger, and
especially as the race goes on.
Yes, as the race goes on,
you're better off. Like early in the race, it's fine if you say, okay, I'm going to drop back with riders, and hey, maybe we can form up 3 or 4 solid people that are at least my fitness level or better. And if you really work together, then yes, you can catch the next group. But you're right. Like once you get to a certain point in the race, after a race like this, once you're out of the first hour, pretty good odds that by an hour and a half, if you haven't caught the group in front of you, it's going to be really hard to. You're certainly not going to catch people getting shelled out and expect that they're going to help you catch.
Yeah, them. No, they're basically just going backwards.
They're cooked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think then it becomes like, well, what's the goal? Is the goal just to get a faster race time, or just to make this as easy as possible? And then if you want to beat those guys, beat those other guys on a sprint at the end, or an attack at the end.
Yeah, and my thing was like. Do all the things to make sure that you have a race that you can finish. Yeah, and that was kind of
the goal, right? Yeah. And so that was the safer play, and it didn't really cost you anything in the end.
No,
I was kind of in the vein of this question. I was it's the right word I'm looking for. I was sulking quite a bit after my race day. We had a nice long 4-hour ride home that night, and we were going to do the post-race kind of recap, record a little bit there, but we got into some heavy thunderstorms. I'm glad we didn't try to do that.
It was hailing and flooding. And it was wild.
But I was thinking about even after I got home and then the next day, I was like, what are some of the positives to take? Because you have a day like that where my goal was finish, but but I was expecting to come out of the race with much improved, like 5-hour power numbers compared to last year. Excuse me. And it didn't really happen, obviously, because I had to shut it down. So I was trying to think, like, what are some things to take out of this, especially as trying to prepare for Unbound in less than a month now, or about a month out. And I think the thing is, like, the power, like sustaining the power for 5 hours to create a new 5-hour power number, a record number, it wasn't in the cards. But it doesn't mean the capability wasn't there.
No.
And I think that's the thing that, it's even if the race doesn't quite go the way you want, and the weather set up perfectly, the course was perfect. Like, even though the race didn't go exactly how you wanted, you still gotta look for the positives in it. Cause, I guarantee that if you finish this race, there are a ton of positives you're going to take out.
Yeah. There's way more positives than the one or two negatives that happened.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's always really important to take out of this particular race, especially. So, all right. So, let's see here. So there's a difference between suffering because the course is hard and suffering because you went out 15 watts too hot in the first hour. Which one were you actually doing, and when did you know?
I like you had some pretty reasonable power caps, and I adhered to them the best I could.
Yeah.
And and then when I got dropped from that first group, and I was really trying hard to get onto them, I tried for probably about, I want to say like 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I was holding, but I wasn't making any roads. And then, I was just like, all right, that's enough of this.
Yeah.
It's time to shut that down and just, wave goodbye to those guys and either accept that you're going to be riding alone or, maybe a group from behind will be there. And that's when I, just kind of shut it down and started going. And then we made it to that first gravel. After the south section, you have a right-hand turn onto a gravel section. And on the turns, I kind of looked behind and I saw, 2 guys in the distance. And I was like, okay, these guys, we'll see if they can bridge up to me and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Let's do the last one here. And it's, so it says you signed up for open range knowing it was going to be slow, grinding, and unglamorous. That's true. No tailwind saves, definitely. No heat excuse, just sustained effort on forgiving terrain that reveals exactly who you are by mile 60.
Yeah.
It sounds like it knows open range. So who were you out there? And is that the athlete you're trying to become or one you're trying to leave behind?
I think the big thing that I'll take away from this is I played this open range safer than I have in the past.
Yeah.
Does
that mean all bets are off next year? You're going to come out and just freaking race it?
Yeah. I think this year I got in my head that, hey, finishing was the goal. Like, get the buckle, all that stuff. I don't know if I like that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
I think I was too quick to accept riding with a different group.
Sure. I think if you had maybe say it differently, or if I could say it differently, when you got dropped, you might have made a decision somewhere, maybe not right away, but somewhere to just put in a concerted, very hard, 10-minute effort to see if you could see their lights, right? Or to catch up, like to give you some glimmer of hope that you were going to maybe catch that group.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have done that, but I would have basically what I would have said was, okay, this power feels doable for the next 6 hours. So I'm going to hold this power for the next 6 hours.
See what happens.
And that would have been the goal.
Yeah.
Whereas this time I was like, oh, there's some people behind me.
Yeah.
I'll do less power, let them catch up, and then we'll start working. And then I'll see some other people. I'll put in a little effort, and then I'll go hang out with them, and then I'll work with them. It was a lot more... it was a lot more compromise on my part, I would say. It was more like, this isn't as fast as I want to ride or as hard as I want to ride. But these guys are staying with me, and I figure, hey, let's, if I can contribute and they can contribute, then,
just get in.
And just get in.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'll have to think about it a little bit more. I got some long rides coming up, so I'll
plenty of time to.
I'll meditate on it, but
Sure.
I don't know if that's the way I want to race in the future. I don't know if that's the way I want to continue to race, but
it did its job for this one.
It
right?
did. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the right strategy for the day. I don't know if it's the strategy that I'll continue to use to implement.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think how many times I say the week leading up, just when we would chat about it, I would say, hey, the goal is just to finish.
Yep.
Right. And that's, honestly, that has not been my goal for a race for a long time, to just finish.
Yep.
Right. So I tend to agree with you. I'm glad as it all turns out, I'm very happy with the way that, the approach, and up until I had to pull the plug on the day, I think that I'm convinced that the execution, the approach was right, because as I said, I was on track for beating 8 hours. It was clearly going to be my best open range.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I'm like, you know what? I think everything was good. But much like you, even if I did not have the issues I had, I still think I would have reached a point in that race where I would have said, you know what, just be safe, and not safe like the safety aspect, but be like, make sure you finished, that the finish is safe.
Yeah.
Because normally I'd say, you know what, if I blow up, I'm going to freaking race hard. And if I blow up, then yes, I'll limp in and we'll figure it out. But yeah, I definitely like the idea of, making sure, because there's something about when you go out there and you don't leave it all out.
Yeah.
It kind of like,
Yeah.
It doesn't quite sit right.
Right. So I think that was it. So
yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Good stuff.
So this weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be at La Grind.
Yeah.
Danny's going to be there for Saturday.
Yep.
He's doing the 100. I'm doing the 100, and then I'm going to do the 65.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Again, it's in Emporia. It's using a lot of the roads that probably the South course is going to use for Unbound. So if you're planning on doing Unbound, I probably should see you at La Grind.
That's right. And
if I was coaching you, I'd be telling you that that's the place where you need to be.
It's a great tune-up place.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
So, the 100-mile route goes around Texaco Hill. Of course, we're going to be climbing Texaco Hill. We're going to go down to Olpe or whatever that town is, which is probably going to be on a stop that's in Unbound. We go through Madison.
Yeah.
Madison has been a huge staple of the South course. Yeah. So you do get a lot of the roads. You don't get too many of the MMR roads that Unbound likes to use, but you get a lot of the main thoroughfares.
Yeah.
And as the volunteers, they're super fantastic. At every race, they're super fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But these guys are, kind of next level. They really like volunteering, and there's some really great stuff there. So if you are doing if you are doing La Grind, definitely come say hi to me and say hi to Danny on Saturday. We'll be out there. Probably won't be racing it hard. It should be just
it's going to be more of a training ride for me.
Yeah, it's going to be
Unbound pacing for me.
Yeah, it's going to be I'm going to work on some Unbound fueling strategies and some pacing for Unbound because I have, basically it's 2 days back to back for me. So if anything, I will race the Sunday ride. Yeah, the Sunday will be a full out race for me.
Yeah, it was last year or a couple years ago.
Well, it was cold and rainy, and
we all wanted to get home quick,
and I excel at that. So, I really like when it's cooler and rainier. Yeah. I just feel like I have an extra gear. Yeah. Again, the heat is always a issue for me. So, again, looking at the weather, looks to be sunny and
relatively
mild.
Cool.
Yeah, relatively cool, some mild temperatures. So. It'll be great.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I wasn't able to make it last year, and it's gonna be a good time. But it's gonna be hard not to go out and try to race. But it's different reasons, I could say. I mean, the goal here really is to prepare for the 200 and try to nail down like the opening pacing and the fueling, as you said, get the fueling right, and then also. We were looking at where some of the stops are going to be. It might be a good chance to try to practice some pit stop strategies, kind of like what we expect to have at Unbound. If folks haven't noticed, Unbound for the 200 now has 3 aid stations or checkpoints, and there's a lot of missing detail about what that's actually going to mean. But when we were driving back, we were doing a little research, and we think we might have found what at least a high likelihood of where the Unbound 200 course is going to go this year. Yeah. And we think there's a good chance to maybe practice some strategies this weekend.
Yep.
So anyway, good stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be great. So, and then the week after that is Mule Skinner. So it's back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
And Mule Skinner is just a hard day in the saddle. It'll be hard from mile one.
I like Mule Skinner because it's a hard race, and I like that part of the area. I'm totally convinced it is a complete 180 from what I'm training for because it's such an up and down course. Mule Skinner and Opawapu have a lot in common. They share common terrains. Yep. But I think Opawapu is. We'll get into that another day. I'm a huge fan of Opawapu, as you know. Yeah. But I think that Mule Skinner is such an up and down course. It feels like I'm going to be on VO2 max repeats all day. Yeah.
So I look at it as a great opportunity to kind of. I mean, that's kind of like you're finishing sharpening the sword. Yeah. You're just kind of getting everything sussed out. The VO2 max repeats. That kind of efforts. Yeah. I mean, that's what that race is for, just to finish honing everything out. And then, and then it'll be Unbound.
It's crazy. It's going to be here before you know it, man.
Yeah, so cool. It's getting close. Again, everybody, thanks for coming up. Thanks for talking to us. Loved hearing everybody's stories and talking to everybody and seeing everybody at the finish and at the start. And then definitely seeing you guys and sharing stories and stuff. So again, thank you all for all your support, and we will talk to you later.